If you want to mainstream water efficiency, waste management or waste reduction, recycling, greater appreciation of the impacts of stormwater pollution from urban catchments and what individuals can do to minimize that, like simply washing their cars on the grass instead of the driveway, really, really simple things like that. But how do you get out to the wider community? And you do that by creating something that's fun.
Welcome to Season 3 of Food Waste Matters, the podcast where we have those conversations about the fight against food waste. So each episode we talk to people who are finding smarter ways to make the most of our food, from farmers and businesses to researchers and industry leaders. But reducing food waste isn't just about the environment. It's also about supporting our local growers, saving money, and making sure perfectly good food doesn't go to waste. So if you're looking for practical ideas, real conversations, and actionable solutions, Food Waste Matters is for you. Hi everyone, and welcome to Food Waste Matters. I'm Dr. Joanne Freeman from Honey and Fox, and today we're heading to Cairns, that incredible spot where the Great Barrier Reef meets the lush, wet, tropic rainforest. It's not just an amazing location though, but it's also home to Queensland's biggest sustainability festival, the Cairns Eco Fiesta. Now, joining me today is Dan Walton, who's been at the heart of this event, bringing the community together to celebrate sustainable living. Eco Fiesta isn't your typical festival, though. It's free, it's packed with workshops, clean tech displays, local food, and fun for the whole family. It's all about showing people practical ways to live lighter on the planet to inspire real change. We'll also talk to Dan about what the Cairns Regional Council is doing to tackle waste and how events like Eco Fiesta can encourage communities to think differently about sustainability. So let's get started and hear how Cairns Eco Fiesta is making a real impact. Well, hello Dan, and welcome to Food Waste Matters. So let's just get right into it. Can you tell us what is Cairns Eco Fiesta and what it inspired its creation as Queensland's premier sustainability festival?
Well, thanks, Joanne. Cairns Eco Fiesta started in 2015, so we're into our 10th year this year. And it's basically council's investment into engaging with the community. The goal is very simple. We want to mainstream green. So sustainability behaviours and greater appreciation of the natural environment.
So, Dan, how does the location, being on the doorstep of two World Heritage areas, influence the festival's focus and also some of the activities that are available during the festival?
Yeah, well, we're Cairns is the gateway to the reef, and we're right there with the wet tropics rainforest. So two World Heritage areas, massive influence on the community. Many people derive their incomes from the natural environment through tourism and all the ancillary services that come with that. So Eco Fiesta was just a natural thing for us to get out there and be celebrating those two World Heritage icons, but also the people that work for its conservation and restoration. And there are many agencies and non-profit organisations and just passionate individuals that do that. So Eco Fiesta gives them all a platform to engage with, 10,000 people every year.
So, Dan, can you give us a bit of a sneak peek at what's going to be at Eco Fiesta this year?
Yeah, well, being our 10th year, we've looked back at what the festival favourites are in terms of content. So there'll be all of the favourites of backyard beekeeping, keeping chooks, tropical food gardening. In that theme, Acosta's coming. So he's a great ambassador for all things self-sufficient and food production wise. So we also have quite a strong renewable energy theme We've had a number of large-scale renewable energy developments in our region, so just raising awareness in the wider community about what the transition to renewable energy means for Queensland and for our region. And I guess really the way I look at Eco Fiesta is council spreads out a big picnic blanket, and then all of our other agencies, non-profits, and they all bring the sandwiches and the cake. And they're all for the people to enjoy. So we're really the facilitator for many other organisations who have far more knowledge about wildlife caring, for tree planting and conservation groups. They are the backbone of the event, and that's been really part of the reason why we've seen such growth, is because we really focus on spreading out that picnic blanket for everybody.
So I just want to explore this mainstreaming green a little bit. I think that's fantastic. Can you explain a little bit more about where the Cairns Council wants to take that mainstreaming green focus?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I guess it all started because in 2015, we'd had an environmental or sustainable living expo previously for a number of years, but it was sort of stagnating in a way. It was attracting just the same crowd every year. And that deep green part of the Cairns community is still a big part of Eco Fiesta today because we brought them along with us. But if you want to mainstream water efficiency, waste management or waste reduction, recycling, greater appreciation of the impacts of stormwater pollution from urban catchments and what individuals can do to minimize that, like simply washing their cars on the grass instead of the driveway. Really, really simple things like that. But how do you get out to the wider community? And you do that by creating something that's fun. People go to festivals or to events primarily for enjoyment. So when you put on you can't just take a whole lot of really important content and then just say, oh, we're doing let's have an expo with all of these great topics. That's what we did with our previous format. And so we realized that if we had great music, great live roving performers, a really strong kids program, put it all on for free. If you bring your own sandwiches, you don't even need to buy lunch from any of the food trucks. And the food trucks we work really closely with to make sure that they are, providing a wide range of food options. We ask whether they have any locally sourced ingredients in their application process. And we also have very strong rules around what they can serve their product on. And that's probably where our main waste avoidance initiative has come through Eco Fiesta, and that's our washing up system. So we actually have a very well functioning, food safety compliant washing up system for 10,000 people. And not to say that everybody's buying the food, but we're easily going through 6,000-7,000 covers, to use a hospitality term, at the event, and we have all of the washing up that makes sure that our bins are pretty much empty at the end of the event.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us a bit more about how it all works?
Yeah, well, I think it was the first couple of years we did the usual thing of mandating compostable single use. And then one year, as a team member and I were squashing down the rubbish bins that were just full of compostable product that had only been used for a couple of minutes and then thrown, we're like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And we knew about washing up trailers in the past. And in fact, the wash against waste is a term that we continued to use because we didn't invent this, but we definitely scaled it up so that rather than it being a small system with a couple of tubs for people to wash up at the local markets, we're doing it for thousands and thousands of people. And so the year that we did that, we started in 2017, so in our third Eco Fiesta. And that year, we just went from having, 40 waste and recycle bins full of waste to like 6 bins. And so the other thing was litter disappeared. because there's no plates and things for people to be either just leaving or, getting up and walking away from when they're finished. And so really well received by our vendors with early engagement. We let them know the plate sizes, how it all works, so they can make sure their menus fit in with the serving stuff that is supplied. I've actually written a whole guide on that called The Wash Against Waste, which we have on our website. This is some indicative costings for events that might like to do a similar thing. And you know what, Joanne, the really interesting thing was finding a provider to do this. Catering companies, particularly wedding caterers, when you think about it, they do this stuff all the time. You don't eat your wedding meal when you go to a reception off a paper plate. They have nice cutlery and crockery. And so a really big win for us was to go out to our local wedding caterers, essentially, or catering companies, and say, is this a service that you could provide? And usually, well, for us, the answer was yes, they can do that. So they bring in a containerized kitchen that has a commercial dishwasher. They bring in all the crockery and cutlery, and they provide the washing up stuff. We then use event volunteers to do the return or the collection of, we have crockery collection stations right next to our bins. So they're sort of like bin stations. And then we collect from there, we go back through the washing up system, and then those plates are then returned to the back of each vendor where it's all set up. They let us know what they want pre-event. And we just have this circular system where the plates just keep going around and around for as long as people are eating.
So you have a circular crockery system. I love it.
Yep, I've even drawn some nice diagrams in the guide just for people who like to see things in, pictorially. But yes, it's really the success of the Wash Against Waste has been one of the best outcomes for Eco Fiesta from a council perspective, because we have waste avoidance targets. We have a waste strategy that obviously puts avoidance at the top of the hierarchy. And recycling and disposal is further down the list. And I think not just in Cairns, but just in general in our society, we've been conditioned to think of recycling as the best outcome that we can achieve through waste management. And so having a system that actually demonstrates that avoidance is the best way of managing waste, really, I guess, it's an exciting thing for us, because we've got a strategy. Everybody talks about avoidance, but when it comes to the crunch, we live in a society of convenience, and the path is usually just single use. Yeah. And we've shifted slightly to compostable, but now we're finding that some of these compostable products have nasties in them, like PFAS and other things like that. And we're like, hang on. So we've gone from not using plastic straws to save the turtles to now using PFAS straws that our kids are drinking out of. And it's a bit like, oh, hang on, there's something amiss there.
And so what impact, Dan, has the festival had on the Cairns community in terms of raising awareness about sustainability and waste reduction or avoidance?
Yeah, well, last year we did a in-event survey where we were asking about behaviour change in the community. And we're doing a follow-up survey with those participants to see what they nominated at the event and what they've actually been able to achieve 12 months later, or close to 12 months later. But one of the most exciting things from the survey for me was that nearly half of survey respondents, and we had 400 odd people respond to the survey, so not an insignificant sample size. About half of those, it was their first time at Eco Fiesta. What's great about that is that comes back to our original goal of mainstreaming green. If we want to be achieving that, we need to be attracting new attendees every year, because we're bringing more and more of the wider community into the sustainability circle. And so that's been a big win for us. It allows our waste team to talk about avoidance and recycling. It allows our water team to talk about water efficiency at home and some of the water restrictions and why it's important that we conserve water. We have a very high rainfall up here, but we have small catchments and small water holding capacity. And so there's this perception that we got plenty of rain, it'll all be right. But we're at the same risk of water security issues as anywhere else in Australia. And so that's a really good opportunity to get out there to people who don't necessarily engage with council messaging in other times throughout the year. So, yeah, we're getting 8,000 to 10,000 people through the gates each year. And this year being our 10th, and I think we're going to probably smash our attendance record this year. I'm quietly confident that we'll be doing that. And so it'll be another opportunity for all the agencies, all of the nonprofits, council, our partners in the event, such as the Cairns and Far North Environment Centre, who provide wonderful support and knowledge to, make the event authentic from a sustainability point of view. So, yeah, I think we're in for another cracker.
So, Dan, obviously you invest a lot of money engaging, or a lot of time engaging with the local community. What role do the local leaders play in inspiring these sustainable practices or promoting the benefits of the Eco Fiesta in Cairns?
Yeah, well, the Marine Park Authority, so Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, the Wet Tropics Management Authority, they've been heavily involved in the event for a number of years. We get a lot of agency attendance in the likes of Biosecurity Queensland, Department of Environment and Climate Change. I think their name has changed recently, but that's who I'm still referring to them as. Yeah, I think we get a lot of interest from agencies, and we get a lot of participation from the likes of the wildlife carers, the bat carers, the wallaby, the Agile Wallaby Project, for example, which is all about helping animals that's sort of trapped in peri-urban bushland and how they can be managed better. We get the permaculture group, we get the biodynamics groups, we get the local community gardens. It's a whole spectrum of sort of terrestrial-based sustainability side of things. Then we get the turtle rehabilitation crew, the Marine Conservation Society, that whole of the reef sector that we refer to them as. And so there's a lot of involvement from many agencies and many nonprofits, and we work with them pre-event, let them know what the themes are, so that if they're then able to maybe incorporate some of that messaging into their own key messaging. So that allows, theming of an event is often purely the organizer's sort of whim. And then when you get to the punters don't necessarily go, oh, this year this is what the theme is. And we've learned that the hard way by really trying to, we've had themes. And so now we really try and just embed what that is into the programming and work with the various stakeholders so that it's woven into the event's programming and the look and feel of it. And so that really helps, I think. And yeah, in terms of organisations and so forth, we just get great involvement because it's quite often their biggest large-scale sort of engagement event for the year.
So, Dan, Cairns Regional Council has actively been working to reduce or avoid waste in your region. Do you work with other regional councils to help spread the word even further?
Well, we're part of the Far North Queensland Regional Organisation of Councils, or ROCs, so they exist all throughout Queensland and I think throughout Australia, actually. So there's work that happens in that space around waste management. So Cairns being a central area, like a bit of a focal point for the region, we have infrastructure that other councils don't necessarily have. So even just this morning, there was some announcements on the radio that our adjoining council to the south, Castlereagh Coast Council, is going to be introducing curbside recycling, and it'll be coming through our materials recovery facility. So that's a great in for recycling in the region. We've also looked to work with Castlereagh Coast Council, have run a little mini Eco Fiesta in their region at their local community garden in Innisfail. which we had looked to support and cross-promote. So we can line our events up a little bit. Townsville, similar. They have had an Eco Fiesta on and off for a number of years. And so we try our best to align these things so that there's a little bit of any marketing opportunities, and savings that come about from a smaller council that might be having an event. We're quite happy to wrap their event into our promotions so that they hopefully get a bigger turnout at theirs. So they're the sorts of things that we've been trying to collaborate on as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. And Dan, finally, so looking ahead, what are your plans or aspirations for the future of Eco Fiesta? Are there any new ideas or collaborations in the works?
Yeah, I guess the two big things for us in terms of Eco Fiesta is that our venue is Munro Martin Parklands, which is part of the Performing Arts Precinct. So we have the Cairns Performing Arts Centre is directly across the road from the Parklands. So it would make sense that in time, as the event grows, that the growth would probably be to introduce a little bit more academic or ticketed events into the CPAC.
Mm-hmm.
We're loath to sort of expand it too quickly because what we have works. And so it's really how to keep things a bit fresh. The other main area of growth for us would be this concept that we have as Eco Week, and Eco Week being satellite events that others will host within a similar time frame to Eco Fiesta. So again, just them leveraging off our marketing spend so that we're able to say, like there's the local Bat Festival, for example, where they're all about raising awareness of the flying foxes in our region. They've worked with local bars and they have these bat cocktails, so you can do a little bit of a bat trail, just fun. Again, coming back to that fun thing of a way to engage people. So they're on board with that. If there's permaculture conferences and renewable energy conferences, for example, that's where we see the growth of the event is not moving away from the core of the community festival, but expanding other elements of it. So satellite events and really marketing that as, that's the week that Cairns rolls out the green carpet for everybody. And it's time to get into our region and enjoy, all of the, I guess, the passion for the environment in our region that people have.
So, Dan, just to finish off, do you want to give a plug about the festival, when it is, where to go to buy tickets or find out any more information and how people can get involved?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So Cairns Eco Fiesta 2025, it's Sunday the 22nd of June. The good news is that it's free entry, so you don't need to buy tickets. And it just runs all day. It's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's just a great day out. We say it's about fun, friendship, and eco-inspiration. That's our catch cry for getting along to the event. We're starting to attract a bit more interest from outside the region. I just responded to just a general inquiry over the email the other day of someone who was coming from New Zealand and wanted to coincide their visit with Eco Fiesta. And that's the sort of thing that we would be really looking to grow, is that visitor experience. So growing it from just a locals type of event. It's nothing stopping anybody else walking through the gates. We definitely get a good amount of tourists, but people having it on their radar that, June, which is sort of right in our peak season anyway, because the weather's so good. That's why we hold it then. Coinciding your visit with Eco Fiesta means you'll basically get to see the green edge of far north Queensland all in one place at one time.
So, Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to recap on a few phrases. So sure. I loved the mainstreaming green, wash against waste. I thought that was fantastic, and we'll provide that link in the show notes as well, so people can go and read your guidelines. The circular crockery system, I thought that was fantastic, and your sustainability circle, and I love that fun, friendship, and eco inspiration. That's all about Eco Fiesta. And it's also about having that green edge. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all the very best for Eco Fiesta in June 2025. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much for your interest.
Well, that was a great chat with Dan Walton from Cairns Eco Festival. And it was great to hear how the festival is bringing sustainability to life in such practical and engaging ways. It's always great to see events like this bringing communities together to make a real difference. And if you'd like to learn more about Eco Fiesta or how to get involved, head over to their Facebook group and have a look in the show notes. I'll provide the link there. I've also included a link to the Wash Against Waste guidelines that Dan mentioned in the interview, which steps out how to run a dishwashing system at events and festivals to avoid waste. And as always, if you have any questions, feedback, or a story about reducing food waste or avoiding food waste, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us an email at foodwastematters@honeyandfox.com.au. And also, if you want to check out all our previous podcasts, head over to YouTube or any of the major podcast platforms so you can catch up anytime. So thanks for tuning into Food Waste Matters. And until next time, let's keep finding ways to make a difference. Big or small, it all adds up. So until next time, bye for now.